Hey everyone, I'm doing this intro a little different today because we are traveling. We just got done celebrating my parents' 40th wedding anniversary. Last night we did a big party for them here in my hometown. And so this morning I got up and I thought, boy, I haven't done an introduction for this week's episode. And so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm really excited about the interview I'm about to share with you because Katie and I have gotten so many questions about business, about entrepreneurship, about creating an income that you can have working from home, because that's something that Katie and I have done over the last really 5 or 6 years. And although we're so grateful for the businesses that we have and we truly love working in our businesses, they're so much fun for us, we don't necessarily consider it to be like a topic that we can speak with authority to. And there's also so many other things that we love talking about. We love talking marriage and family and everything that we talk about on this podcast. And so we were thrilled to have this opportunity to interview Doug and Hayley Johnson, because I can confidently say that Doug and Hayley are authorities in the space of entrepreneurship and of being able to create a successful business and be able to grow your earning capacity from a home as a home-based business, or just as a business that you can work remotely. And so Doug and Hayley, this is what they do. They coach other entrepreneurs, and they help people start businesses, and they've helped Katie and I tremendously in our business. And that's another reason why I'm so excited to share them with you, is because we have been direct beneficiaries of their coaching and of their programs. And so we can confidently back everything that they're doing. And it's just so, and I'm also saying this to let you know, this is a business heavy episode. This is going to be the most like businessy Now That We're a Family podcast has ever been. And so I hope you guys have a bunch of takeaways from this. You guys be sure to check out Doug and Hayley, all their stuff. They've got so much free content that they put out on Instagram and on YouTube. They've got an amazing podcast. It's called the Digital Income Family podcast, and you can find them on YouTube and on Instagram as the Digital Income Family. A little bit about them. They've got 3 children. They, you'll hear more of their story in the podcast, but they've really helped Katie and I in a big way. And so we're really excited to have this conversation with them to share with you, especially for those of you that are in the midst of maybe starting a business, or you want to grow your business, or you're curious about whether or not you can start a side hustle in addition to what your current business is. And also we talk a lot about working with your spouse in a business, because obviously Katie and I have done that, and there's some interesting insights regarding businesses where spouses work together in them, and I'm excited for you to hear that as well. Again, I'm going to link everything about Doug and Hayley below. Be sure to check them out, all their programs, follow them on the social media platforms, go to their podcast, the Digital Income Family Podcast. I think that's the introduction. Thank you all so much, and we'll get today's episode going right now.
The Now That We're a Family podcast.
All right, folks, you already heard a little bit about Doug and Hayley, but you actually get to hear from them yourselves now. So Doug and Hayley, first off, thank you so much for being willing to do this.
We're so
thanks
thankful
for having us.
Yeah.
I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah, I'm stoked to have you. Actually, this is a really unique situation for Katie and I, and you guys have said it's kind of unique for you in the sense that we met each other online.
Yeah.
And you guys have played a huge role in a lot of the successes that Katie and I have seen over the last year. And then even prior to that, Hayley, when Katie was following a lot of your stuff, you were a huge encouragement to her. And so you guys have been a huge blessing to our family. And so it's a fun treat that we're in person.
Yeah.
You guys are road tripping.
It's surreal. Totally.
Yeah. I mean, after seeing you guys, like, obviously on screen, it's probably maybe the same thing for you guys. And then being here in real life, it's like,
yeah, it's weird.
It's kind of weird. It's weird, but familiar at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Different than you always think. I don't know. I watch a lot of Katie, throughout the last probably year since you guys onboarded with us. And so Doug's like sick of hearing about it.
No, I wouldn't say sick of it.
She has 11 siblings or 10 siblings. Yeah.
I mean, she's just always talking about how much of an inspiration like you guys are and your families are. And even I would almost go as far as to say like role models in some cases, in some ways. And it's so cool to be here. So,
especially because you guys also work together.
Yeah,
right.
It's a rare instance.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to actually hear more about that from what your guys' experience has what your guys' experience has been like working together. And obviously the emphasis of this episode is going to be around business. I know a lot of our listeners maybe are entrepreneurs, or they're considering starting a side hustle, or they currently have a side hustle and they're wondering what it takes to make it their, the main bread and butter. And a lot of our listeners are thinking about doing that with their spouse. They're thinking, okay, how can we utilize each other's skill sets, but still maintain a healthy home culture, so that we're not, I think it's easy to say you'll sacrifice now for a greater work. But there are some things that we're not willing to sacrifice.
Yeah, totally.
Right. And I think that's where a lot of our listeners are at. So, I mean, before we get into all of that, can you guys just tell us a little bit about yourselves? How'd you meet?
Yeah.
Let's go back.
This
let's
is where
go back.
I gotta follow Haley's lead.
How
here.
about you do the meeting thing?
I mean, well, we met in college.
Okay.
And so,
Typical, yeah,
typical regular college town kind of thing. And you meet and you kind of figure things out as you're going, because you're so young and you don't really know exactly what's going on. But there was something that was different, obviously, about meeting Hayley and like meeting her and kind of just knowing that that's kind of like who I wanted to be able to talk to and who I was just, obviously attracted to like right from the start. But who would have thought that meeting in college would kind of lead to like this instance now?
Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
So, I mean, he didn't give the whole full story.
No, I did not give the full story. But if you want to give the full story.
I mean, we
you can.
met because we were in fraternity and sorority.
Yes.
Okay.
Which I wouldn't recommend for my kids the way we met necessarily. But yeah, so total typical college sweetheart type of thing. And then, I mean, we got married a couple years after that.
Yeah, from there it was just dating through college, getting through college and surviving that.
And we always had since we met in college, we always had this 8 to 5-ish mentality.
Yes.
Especially Doug. His dad is, since we're talking about, working together, his dad is not Japanese. His dad's half Japanese.
He's half Japanese, yeah.
So do you want to explain?
Yeah. It was college was go to college to find the job, to get the career, to find the one company that you move up for, and for like
Forever.
for a long time, forever.
Till retirement.
Yep. And so I was in business college. And Hayley wasn't in business college when we met. She was like a communications major, wanted to do journaling or something lame.
Okay, I switched to finance. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I know, right?
Not journaling, journalism. Yeah.
But after like meeting her, she was raised in a totally different light, like in a totally different situation, which her dad was an entrepreneur. And so our worlds kind of collided.
Yeah, like my dad sort of told me, go to college if you want, but you don't have to. Like, really, you should be dependent on yourself, or, self-reliant. So I went thinking what everyone else around me was thinking. Okay, everyone else is getting a job, I'll get a job. So you guys are totally opposite in that way, because just in so many ways, but, hindsight's 20/20. So we got married thinking we'll just both work like everybody else.
Yep.
And then quickly we got pregnant with our firstborn Annabelle, and I was like, I don't want to be a working mom, because I was in daycare. So I really did not like being in daycare. I want to be with my parents. So I didn't want to have her, not that I had a bad childhood, but I didn't want to have her repeat that.
Yes.
Like I did. So I started a YouTube channel, and Doug kind of was like, what the heck? This is like 2014.
Yeah. No, it was definitely different and interesting, because we went from college straight to trying to find that job. At least I did. I was like, I gotta go find the company, I gotta go find the big money, gotta start working my way up the ladder. And Hayley had like a resistance to it at first. Well, first it was kind of cool, and it was kind of like, because let me step back. After we graduated college, I got a job in Los Angeles at a marketing agency, and so we moved out to LA. And I was like, hey Hayley, do you want to like move out to me with LA, because we're dating, we're doing this stuff? And she was like, only if we're going to get married. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So we had to make sure that was clear. But from there, it was then, what do we do for work?
Yes.
Because that's what everybody else does, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I got into a job, I got into a marketing agency, really liked it.
Yeah.
And loved it. And Hayley had a different experience.
Yeah. So I hated my job like most people. I mean, honestly, Doug's very rare. He was so gung-ho with the 8 to 5 mentality. He's like, I love it. Let's do it. The commute, let's do it. But he was also very new into the game.
I was.
So when you do that for like 20, 30 years, you're like, this is just my life. Like, I'll try and be thankful,
Yeah, your soul wasn't crushed yet.
No.
It was
so he was
not.
sprightly,
And
it was an agency job.
And it was an agency job, so it was like Fine
In
Wine
LA.
Fridays, and everybody drank beers after 4.
We were like,
and,
what is this
There was
debauchery?
parties, and it was craziness, and I was like out of my comfort zone, but also like so green and new that I was just gonna roll with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you just don't see what's coming.
Yeah, yeah. So it was like 5 years into it, I decided, 1 year into my job, or 6 months.
It was like 6 months.
I was like, will you support, I didn't even ask, you did it anyways, but I was like, will you support me? I'll try this YouTube thing, I'm going to do it. Like, I'd rather kill myself trying to do YouTube and make any money. Because that's kind of like back then, no one was really doing influencing. I mean, there's like the first, what we say is like the first, what is it like? The first group of YouTubers.
Like the OGs.
So I was like the
100%.
second or third sort of. And I was like, well, they're doing it, but like not a lot of people really were. They were like superstars, you know, in different countries. So I was like, I'll just try, like, let's do it. So he supported me and he was rising in the ranks at his SEO job for like, it was like a marketing agency. And probably like a year and a half into it, I was not making the same amount as you, but I was making enough like to replace my job. And so I then was like, you should quit your job and do something else full time with me online. And he was like, what
and I
the
was
heck?
like, I was getting raises left and right, getting promotions. I was working with big name companies. And Hayley was like, hey, I do this thing where I record myself.
Well, I didn't want you to be a YouTuber.
I know, but she's like, this is what I do. Maybe we can do something together like this. And if you go back and like you see our first videos,
Rough.
I was not about it.
I don't know about you, Elisha, but
You're dragging your feet. Yeah.
hated being on camera.
No, I didn't want to be on camera or anything like that. But as seeing the way that Hayley was able to grow and do these things, eventually she made enough money for me to be able to quit my job and even more.
We then started an Amazon business.
Yeah.
So Doug was never going to be like a YouTube dad. That was like never a thing. He didn't want to do that. It's not something we want like really of our family. So we started selling physical products on Amazon. So we sold, the first one was like a baby car seat cover. And he replaced his income through that initially.
Yeah. Okay.
And so then I was like, you should quit. Which, you know, again, hindsight's 2020. But then he did quit. And we went all in really with Amazon and YouTube until, and then do you want to talk about this part?
Well, Amazon's always a blur to me because we moved so quickly in doing it. And by leveraging Hayley's audience, like, and working together and like using two different skills. So Hayley had this like innate skill to be able to attract people and get them, they were just magnetized to her. They liked what she was talking about. They liked what she was doing. And I had these skills in search engine optimization and working with algorithms and looking at physical products and crunching numbers. We were able to put this together to do Amazon. And that's what allowed a lot of Amazon to flourish and for me to be able to quit my job.
For Amazon, you know, like you got to get reviews. So if you get a lot of reviews, you kind of like rig the algorithm in that way. We were able to do that.
Yeah, we were able to figure it out.
Organically.
Organically leverage Hayley's audience to do that. And that was awesome. That was super cool until I was like packing boxes at night or like stressing out about orders not being placed.
Katie told me you guys did like a physical product clothing business for a second.
Yeah, so I missed that. You guys were fulfilling these orders.
We did. So we did Amazon FBA. So we did Amazon fulfillment.
Right.
But the first couple of times I was so scared to just let them ship things to Amazon.
Yeah.
I had to see them myself. It was like some weird thing that I couldn't get over.
Working with Chinese like suppliers is very sketchy.
Yeah.
Like any FBA will tell you.
Yeah.
But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, so you guys did that too. I didn't even know that.
Not with Amazon, but we've sold physical products.
Oh, for sure.
And the logistics of it are a whole other situation.
Yeah.
And then growing up in families that have had, you know, physical products or still do and do a great job with it. They've got systems built out where it really, you know, works for them and people are able to do it, but it's just a whole other ball game.
It is. It really is.
Yeah, it's wild. And to try to go from a regular job to then trying to supply your own income and like your family's livelihood was a huge shock to me.
Sure.
Yeah, it was a lot of convincing on my part because he did not have that mindset at all.
I'll put it this way, like when I called my parents to tell them that I quit my job, my like rising star job, they would take pictures of me in places. They were so proud.
Oh man.
I told them I was quitting and they sighed. My dad audibly, I could hear him on the phone like sigh that I was quitting my job. But anyway, so that was like kind of the path that led us to Amazon, that led us to then asking ourselves, what else can we do? Because with Amazon, to try to make a really long story short, like basically competitors would pick up on your product, they'd figure out what was working.
The manufacturers
would just take your ideas.
Sure.
Like I actually saw, this is so weird, I don't know if you remember this, but we would have our manufacturer on like WeChat or whatever the program was that we would talk to them. And we would look at her profile and what she was taking pictures of, and there was pictures of our product that she was showing to other clientele.
Yeah, just giving them ideas. Yeah, exactly.
The same thing.
Yeah.
And so we ended up getting priced out, and it was hard to compete with price. Like we could try to keep up with volume, but price was really hard. So we were like, okay, what else can we do that's our own, that cannot be replicated, that cannot be duplicated? And that led us to going back to Hayley's basically a YouTube channel, but her expertise and strategy with YouTube.
Yeah. So I was doing YouTube full time alongside selling those products. And as Katie was just telling me on our podcast, a similar story, but you know, sponsorship after sponsorship, you don't really understand like what you're signing the dotted line on when you say, I'll be a full-time YouTuber. Especially as like a mom. At the time I had just, when I was doing, supporting the family with YouTube, I had a 2-year-old and an infant,
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't really understand like when you have a 2-year-old and an infant, because they're not really looking at you being like, get off your phone, mommy, or like, hey mom, like play with me. They're still so small.
Yeah,
and
there's a ton of grace there. Like,
it's a good time to grow things. She was saying when you have baby, like one baby, but when you have a child that starts to notice, and that's what started happening with our first Annabelle. When she's very spirited, which we love her for, but
zoom in on my face on that one because man, she was spirited.
And so a big portion of my channel is, or was, because I'm not really doing it, but was sharing my life as Katie does too.
Yes.
So it's like, mom tips and vlogs and things like that. And I never really said this on the internet yet, but she didn't want to be in the videos even as a 2-year-old. She's very smart, that child. So she's like, no, turn it off. Like she'd screech every time the camera would go beep.
Yep.
And honestly, at the time I was like, okay, come on, I don't film that much. Like I was putting up like 2 videos a week.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like I was some type of family vlogger channel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so I was like, I gotta do it. Like, what am I supposed to do? And so I was doing things without her in them, but it was weighing heavily on my conscience, and like Katie was just telling me, the sponsorships were for your family, were for your kids. So like, for instance, Huggies, it's hard to say no to $6,000-$7,000 because you have to also feed your family. And so at a certain point we were like, what did we get ourselves into?
Yeah. What did we
and how do we get ourselves out?
Yeah. How often do we have to record ourselves eating dinner?
Yes.
Or how many times do I have to chop a chicken for
a
home cooking thing that I have to do while my kid's screaming because they want to go play or they want to do something? And
influencers don't talk about this stuff.
Yeah, it's something that's not touched on at all because it's kind of taboo almost. Like you don't want to break that fourth wall.
Yeah. And also I do have to say I'm not against influencing. I teach people how to do it, and it's amazing to have influence on the internet. It's just the way that I had initially designed my channel wasn't really for family in mind. And that's just something I learned, so I'm not bashing anyone that does this.
No.
It's just, I had to learn that, the hard way for my own self.
Yeah. And it's still, what it really comes down to is it's like values. Like where does your value lie? Like I'm not going to bash anybody that says I need to make this money because you need to do it. And that's what you need to do to be able to feed your family. But there is a line, which was for us, our child going, every time the camera went beep, she would scream.
She wasn't even in.
No,
thing.
she wasn't even in a thing.
But
she would
also,
just hear
she's
it.
2, and like she wants attention, from mom. She wants mom to do things. So, anyways, it was that time where I'm like, I can't. In order for me to make money, I don't want to have to involve my child at all. I want it to be totally behind the scenes. And so it was at that point we were like, we found actually some income report, which we talked about on our podcast, but we found some income report from some no-name blogger who's making like 6 figures a month doing an online course teaching people how to be a blogger or something like that. And we were like, what is this? So we looked into this person. She had like a very small audience, and I was like, this cannot be true. So I looked, because it's just the way that you make money.
Yeah.
So you think is huge audiences.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so I thought, what the heck, let's just try it. So we paid for some type of $1,000 course to teach us how to do it.
Yep.
And we launched our first one with Doug's help. But go ahead.
And so the thing with that program was not designed for influencers.
Yeah.
And it was not designed for anybody that had any kind of audience or knew how to get an audience. It was just strictly, how do I create a course? Like what goes into a course?
Yeah.
And so we had to piece together all the other stuff. We had to piece together like, how do we leverage this with our audience? How do we rank these pages? How do we create a good user experience on a website so people want to buy? It did teach you stuff like copywriting for sales pages, but there was a lot that was missing that didn't apply to us because we needed to add to it. Because we were in kind of like unique circumstance. And I put unique there because nobody is ever truly that unique.
Yeah.
But basically it did really well. So we ended up teaching people how to do YouTube, how to start channels so you could become
Which isn't
profitable.
Novel. Like, let me just say, people do it now. But back then, it was just like 2018. I know that's not long ago, but there wasn't a ton of people. There was like Graham Stephan was really the only one I could find teaching YouTube.
Yeah, I didn't even know what courses were.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And now everyone has them. It's like so popular, but just a couple years ago, things happened so fast through social media, and now it's like normal. But so we were shocked with the results from that because we made like 3x whatever, I don't know. We usually made. And so I did not think it would work because, Graham Stephan had he's got like millions of followers. I was like, well, mine won't sell. But it did.
Wow.
I think what the coolest thing about that though was that it wasn't just reliant on Hayley doing stuff. I could do stuff too.
Yes.
That would be more involved. That wasn't me trying to talk to a camera to force myself to vlog. Because that was the last thing I wanted to do was try to put myself on camera that way.
Yeah.
So it allowed me to be much more involved with the business side of things, which is what I wanted to do, was to get more involved in some way.
Yeah.
That wasn't trying to be an influencer.
Yeah, I really love hearing this story, and I think you guys have such a unique offering, because not only have you been in the weeds of doing the sponsored videos and the grind of YouTube, you also have this desire to have a healthy family life. And I would say that oftentimes we I'm going to speak in generalities here.
That's fine.
But it's easy to identify maybe two groups of people, and one is for good reasons being scared to start a home-based business like this, because they're really scared to ruin their family culture.
Yeah.
They're thinking, I want to be present with my children, or I don't want this to become some monster that starts running our household. And so on one hand, you can admire that. You can say and it's also a worthwhile fear based off of kind of your guys' story. And maybe the other polarizing people, that they do get trapped.
Yes.
And they don't figure out how to get out.
Yes.
They think, boy, if we could just get this income big enough so that maybe hubby could quit his job, he could come alongside and work, and then a year or two or 5 down the road, your kids are growing up. They don't want to be on camera.
Yeah.
You don't want to be bringing the camera to every restaurant. And even if it's not a public facing business like that can happen, I think, in so many businesses. But instead of, I think, kind of conceding and choosing one of those, you guys found a solution.
Yeah.
And that's how you guys are teaching people now. And that's what's so fun about talking to you, even off air, so to speak, is that you guys are constantly addressing those challenges, because it's not like, there's just one size fits all and it goes away. It's a constant battle, and you're constantly learning. And I think that's why Katie and I really gravitated towards a lot of your guys' teachings and your programs, is because you're not willing to sacrifice the family and the home life, but you also see there is a huge opportunity to be able to have a home-based business, but it can be done very healthily. So yes, continue on.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think it's hard, because the only time we've made big strides so far in our business, we've been in an extreme amount of pain. And so, I say this on our podcast, it's like a Tony Robbins quote. It's like the basis of my life. I got to change that. Probably it's happening because I keep saying it, but it's no, it's his. But it's you're more apt to run away from pain than you are towards pleasure. Because when you don't, nobody really wants to run towards cool vacations, because it's hard work. That's not enough. The joy is not enough. Most of us live a comfortable life, so that's it's hard for me to teach people. I do it obviously for a living, but sometimes it's the only things that have really propelled our business is the big, serious, painful things, me hating my job, wanting to not wanting to put my child in daycare, and then Doug, and realizing the life that he's about to live, working 40, 50 hours a week, and then getting 2 weeks off, and never seeing his kids really, and then also doing YouTube. So, anyways,
it was an interesting time figuring out what that pain was, or more realizing what that pain was. I don't know if we said it, but we don't do just the YouTube thing now. We actually help other people do just this, which is start courses and create that stuff. That's our bread and butter now. And so we do run into people in that same situation.
Yes.
One of our students said that all she wanted to do was take her kids to the zoo on a Tuesday. That's all she wanted to do, was that the pain of not being able to be with her kids whenever she wanted was a huge thing. For me, it was hearing my dad say, so I'll try to give it as an example. Last year for his birthday, we wanted to buy him this experience where he can drive a NASCAR Cup car around a track a bunch of times. And he's 67.
He loves cars.
He loves cars. Loves NASCAR, loves cars, does all this stuff. He does some tries to do racing on the side, works with his buddies and stuff.
Nice.
He said no, because he said he was too far gone. He's too old, and life insurance wouldn't cover it if he died. And I didn't want that. To never realize your dream of driving a NASCAR car or a race car because it's too late is a pain for me, because that sucks to have to wait until you're 65 and retired to try to do things that you want to do. And so for me, that was the pain of realizing that could be me if I keep working at this company.
The trajectory,
the trajectory, my eyes open, and I was like, oh.
And obviously, at the time, we didn't come to this epiphany whoa, working an 8 to 5 sucks. It wasn't so much that. It was really because, probably the same as you guys, we were reading a lot of books. So we're re-indoctrinating ourselves. We stopped watching any TV. We haven't, this is not like a Tooting Man Harm, but we haven't watched a single episode of anything. We used to be binge Netflixers like anybody else. We stopped doing anything like that at night, and we started reading like the basics. Okay, like 4-hour work week, you know, all of the types of Think and Grow Rich. And that's when we were starting to have this epiphany of like, what kind of life do we want to live? Do we want to be around our kids, or do we just want to like half be around them like most people? Not even half, you know? So
yeah. Yes. I mean, you know, people have different things that they do, and they have different ways to relax or to let off steam or do whatever. And it did take a while to re-indoctrinate yourself in terms of like what it takes to actually have that freedom with your kids. Like I still get my buddies all the time that ask me when I'm going to come back and play video games.
Yes.
And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't think that's in my path or like the way that I see things too much anymore, because of that pain that Hayley and I really share of not being able to be around our kids as much.
Yeah, it reminds me of the quote, and I don't know who to attribute it to, but it's like, you know, which pain are you going to have, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret?
Totally.
And you guys are talking about, even though you said a lot of the big changes come from the proverbial stick versus the carrot,
yes.
you guys have also chosen the pain of discipline, so to speak, in order to ideally prevent the pain of regret, which I think is the ball's in our court. To be able to choose that. Just the pain of discipline over the pain of regret.
It's a scary thing to realize the ball's in your court too.
Yes.
I also
Super
think
scary,
like
man.
a lot of people always ask me, well, how do you get motivated? Because they just can't find the willpower. And I think it's probably because they're not surrounded by other people doing it. Like, you know, we know of you guys, it's easy nowadays because you have your Instagram account. Like honestly, you can follow these people, but that really helped. Seeing really, like I said, re-indoctrinate yourself, but seeing other people and only really looking at the people whose lives you want to emulate. You know, the whole like you are the 5 closest people to you, which is a scary thought sometimes.
Yes.
So we had to switch that up, you know, and so that's why we think differently. But we were obviously not always like that. You know?
Yeah, and throughout this journey, because you guys have 3 awesome kiddos, you know, and you guys are pouring time into them, but it's not like this space necessarily facilitates that altogether. This space meaning the greater online entrepreneurial space. In fact, like a lot of the people that Katie and I looked up to for a long time, it's like they lost a ton of, you know, credibility because they did neglect their families.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
At the,
it's like
you know,
everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And they neglected their marriage. They neglected, their children, their health, all those things for the sake of succeeding in their business. So as the years have gone on and you guys have had your children, what are some can you think of like these watershed moments or like these pivotal moments where it was tough on the marriage or it's tough to make these decisions? Because I mean, trust me, coming from a guy that, you know, has built business with his wife, you have unique opportunity for growth, you know, like that's like as a positive way to say it, because it really can be a positive thing. But I don't know if you guys could speak to anything around that topic and just kind of like what you guys have worked through with that.
You know, it's funny hearing that question now on this side of things. As a weird side tangent, a while ago I went to a conference called FlynnCon, which is put on by Pat Flynn, and we got to ask questions. And I was there and I got to ask one of the questions to Pat Flynn and Shalene Johnson, who's also on there, and I asked the same question. I was like, what did you guys do with your families? And Shalene Johnson actually said she regretted working so much. And Pat Flynn was like, well, I have certain ways that we try to do things. And I took that back to Hayley to try to incorporate some of the things that we thought, but we quickly realized that it's not a flip of a switch. And it's not something that just instantly happens. I think he said something like, oh, just share time with like what you guys do. And so I was like, okay, let's go share time. Like, easier said than done, obviously, you know. But I think the first big thing that helped with us was setting expectations and understanding like what's going to be happening within this business and working together. And having common goals. Like those to me, I mean, I'm going to speak for myself here. Like those to me were 2 things that I felt like were absolutely necessary.
I mean, I think like the biggest pivotal moments for like our marriage and the business too is realizing we don't want to have our kids on camera, you know, as much. I mean, our kids are still on camera. We take pictures for Instagram, but we don't want to make our money off of our kids anymore. And that was hard because we were pulling in like, you know, $20K a month, sharing our life online. And so when we've never seen that kind of money before, you know, we grew up in middle class homes. We're very fortunate, but from going to like nothing in just a couple years, like, well, what could we do in the next couple years? Could we triple? Could we quadruple? Like whatever. So shutting that off is like, you know, it's a moral type of decision. And
it requires unity, because otherwise there can be tons of resentment or discord. And even when you guys are talking about not watching the shows, you know, or not playing video games and you're reading business books and self-development books, that takes an element of like-mindedness.
Yes.
And did that come instantly, or was somebody further ahead than the other?
Nope.
And was there somebody dragging their feet,
Doug. Well, since I was the entrepreneur first, whatever, he was totally supporting me paying the bills for a long time, So, but since I was already in that headspace, like I got to make this happen and he can't work, like I want to see him more and I want him to see our baby more at the time. I was just gobbling up like any type of information.
Absolutely.
All the stuff my dad told me to read, I was finally reading it and understanding. And so I would, how wives do sometimes, I would tell him about this when he gets home and so eventually he caught on to it. But and I think also when you are an entrepreneur, people are like, wow, you have so much discipline. Like, absolutely not. It's just, I feel, and I just speaking for, myself, it's like, I always feel scared. And I think that's just an entrepreneurial thing. Now, I'm, again, speaking just for myself, but it's just my assumption is when you work for yourself, things can go awry. There could be recessions, whatever. So I always have to be learning. It's just a necessity. So when people are like, where would you get the motivation? It's like, we have to do it because you are feeding your family. Yep. So you have to know information, So
yeah, it's interesting. You say you feel like you live scared a lot, and I think
it's ridiculous. I understand. Yeah.
And maybe I think Katie and I can relate. Maybe not. We wouldn't use the term scared.
Scared. Yeah, that's not the right word.
Like maybe uncomfortable, or we'd say, and if anything, we associate discomfort very positively now. And we both get a little bit uneasy when we feel comfort, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Because so many of the great seasons of growth and of abundant fruition have come through just hardships, have come through discomfort.
Yeah.
And so when we'll be in a season of like, man, we haven't gotten outside of our comfort zone for a while. We both know that's like a sign. It's like, we don't want to live that way. Like we don't, so many good things in life. I mean, we're talking about business, but like, hard conversations in marriage, like growing in your faith, growing as a parent just requires getting outside of your comfort zone. And so I think that I can kind of relate to that idea of just kind of like now, like living a little bit uncomfortable can be really good. And having that positive association with discomfort, I think is really good.
I definitely see that, but I also think like Doug is less, what is the word? I don't know.
Listen, I'm not sitting there scared all the time. I'm not sitting there worrying about like what could potentially be happening. Or
I'm a little more towards scared's not the right word, you guys know, but like I'm a little more towards that.
No, you're anxious, like 100% anxious. Like
not all the time.
It's not all the time, but it is one of those things, and it is just something that when you're in charge of a business, it's what you think about.
Yes.
And so even when I was in business school, one of the things that would get brought up was you have to ask CEOs whenever you have a chance to, what keeps you up at night. And so I would ask people that, like, we would work with businesses, we would work with corporations, like, hey, what is it that keeps you up at night? And they always had an answer for something. They were never like, nothing, I sleep fine. No, there was always something that could potentially be happening. And that still happens with us too, and that happens with any business, really. And so, there are certain things that keep Hayley up at night more than me. And there was a certain, like you were saying earlier, wasn't a just switch or like something that happened, an instantaneous change of like, being able to turn into this type of like a business or this family relationship or this relationship business, it did take me a longer time. Like it took me a longer time to figure it out. But being able to empathize with Hayley and realize her anxiousness and where it comes from and those kinds of things has helped to understand like, oh, here are the things that we need to do, or here are the things that it's made it easier for me to quit doing the things that I wanted to do and do the things that I should be doing.
I mean, and what is that like now when you look back at your old career and what you're doing now?
Man, it's crazy. It's crazy to think that I would just go to work and I'd work from 7 to 6.
Sit in traffic, but
his office for an hour.
Was like
my office was like a half a mile away, but it'd take me 40 minutes to get home. And then,
LA.
I'd come home. I'd see my kids for like 15 or 20 minutes, or I'd see my child because I was just the one at the time. And then I'd want to just sit back and do nothing, play video games, watch Netflix for 4 hours. And it's like, what could we have been doing that entire time if we had the knowledge and the discipline?
And a lot of people think they don't have time. I mean, everybody has time. I never want to be the person that's like, everyone has the same hours a day. It's like they don't. Some people work ridiculously long hours, but... Yeah, I mean,
some people also sit on the toilet for 30 minutes at a time, like 6 times a day.
Yeah, they do.
So
scrolling.
Sometimes that's me. But
Doug.
No. but you find time. Like if the pain, if the stick is big enough, you will find that time to make that happen.
Yeah. That's interesting. So kind of moving again and jump back anytime you guys want to jump back, but into what you're currently doing, because that's really how I was introduced to you guys. I think Katie's known you longer, Hayley, but it was about just over a year ago, I think, maybe a year and a half ago.
Like that,
I got introduced to one of your guys' really your main program now, how do you say it? ICA, and it so, like, I guess alleviated a pain point in my and Katie's life. And so that was a huge blessing for us. And that's, you guys are doing a lot of that now. And the reason I'm excited to one of the reasons I'm excited to have this conversation is not only is the content so valuable to Katie and I think to anybody that goes through it, but you guys have also been able to see a lot of the ins and outs of many businesses now.
Yes.
Yeah. It's
and
so
doing
interesting.
Totally.
Yes.
And I feel like that in and of itself can just be such a value piece that you can bring to your clients, and I guess maybe you can bring it to my audience right now.
100%,
Totally, yeah.
100%.
Yeah, no. So in regards to that, when you look, at just the smorgasbord of businesses that you've coached, these people that you've mentored, are there? Yeah.
No, I'm ready to talk. I'm ready.
Sweet.
Keep on.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
But I'm ready.
Are there? Well, yeah. I mean, say what you want to say about it, but I guess I'm curious. Like, are there common pitfalls? Are there common, like, oh man, this is just, you see this time and time again where these people are being held up by this thing.
Yes.
And it's keeping them back from truly succeeding. Yeah. What are some things like that?
Yeah. I mean, I was just talking about this with Hayley because I see it from a mile away, because I'm in the business. I'm the guy that does, I have done for a long time, a majority of our sales calls. So like our discovery calls with potential clients, I started doing them. We want to train our team and get people on them, but that's my bread and butter now. It never was before. And one of the things that I've seen that's like the most common, it could be either the pitfall or like the linchpin to success for people, is that if there is a spouse, which I'm guessing like this is the audience, right, that we're speaking to, is a married couple, if they are not on the same page, absolute failure.
Wow.
Never hear from them, never hear success.
And
nothing
we've
happens.
seen some crazy
and
things.
We've seen
like
crazy instances. People being like, my husband doesn't know I'm on this call.
Yeah,
Or
hiding.
like,
hiding.
Can you name it something else when I buy it? So like they don't know.
Doug sees
And
all this
I
stuff.
see.
You're like, this is not what I was signing up for.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. But on the flip side, when the husband's on the call from the first day, he's like, my wife's filled me in on this stuff.
Yeah.
Or he's like, hey, I can't make the call, but if my wife wants to, can I have a second call with you?
Yeah.
Like just you and I to talk about these things. Can I get the details on this stuff? Success.
Yeah.
There is no in between. I have not seen an instance where it's like the husband's totally not on board and they're wildly successful, or they're both on board and they're not successful.
Yeah.
It is that like,
and that doesn't mean that your husband or
can't.
spouse, because we work with a lot of women, obviously, but it doesn't mean that you can't have success if your husband's not on the call necessarily, or if they're not like, I'm going to do this with you. Because Doug, when you first started.
Yes, absolutely. I was not the one that was trying to do it with.
But you were supportive.
Right, but I was very supportive.
That's all,
very on board.
that's all.
As long as the arrows are pointing in the same direction. Golden. They're fine.
Because even in regards to that, I think it's a really intriguing insight. And like part of me is like, well, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I know, right?
But
You're
then
like
it also
basic.
is, but it does. It's kind of like almost reaffirming to hear.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And this isn't. I'm sorry to cut you off, but this isn't just a couple people. This is I've taken nearly 1,000 sales calls.
Yeah.
And we've had hundreds and hundreds of students. And this is by far the biggest pattern that we see.
Yes. And even in say the couples that are working, it's going well for them, and their arrows are pointing the same direction, so to speak. Are their skill sets always the same? Do they always complement each other the exact same way, or is it more of just like they are united in spirit,
United.
and like it's not that they're both working this way and in this capacity in the business. So you've seen a variety of basically like skill sets,
absolutely,
or of talents.
There are even instances where I don't see the husband.
Yeah,
we do work with a lot of women, so I don't see the husband, but he's there. He's supportive. He's watching the kids during the coaching call. He's there to watch them when the wife has to get this work done or film this video. He is on board because their vision for life is the same. Now, if his vision for life is different, his vision for life is, I'm going to be very stereotypical, dude here because I am the guy, but wants to hang out with the guys, go do things on guy weekends, hang out with people gone for a long time.
Yeah, it's so hard.
It's so hard to pull him out of that and say, can you do this for me?
Right.
Yeah.
When instead it should be like,
for
why
us.
aren't we doing this for us?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, Katie and I have talked a lot about that. That has been such an integral part of any growth that we've seen in the things in life that are important to us have come through being united. And it's like there is so much tension and discord in our home when we're like a two-headed snake. And it can even be within like something that we both love. We love, Katie and I love our podcast. We love now that we're family. But if we want to take it different ways or if she's got a different vision, it's just like, this is not right at all, and we've got to get on the same page. And so that totally makes sense. That's the case. And even with you guys kind of going back to this, because I guess I'm curious, with our listeners, what the skill sets are within the home, because as we've gotten to know you, you are very capable from like you said you even worked in an SEO job. You were working with a marketing firm. You knew a lot of that stuff, a lot of the back end stuff, and as you've worked with us, you've been like hands-on building out funnels with us and working even when it comes to like the detailed text that we're putting into emails and whatnot. Your face was on the camera. You were charismatic. I mean, I don't know if you were naturally that way or if you developed that through YouTube. And so it's like, oh, well, of course you guys would succeed. It's easy.
People
it's
say
easy
that.
to say
hear
that
all the time.
Like, of course, but we're not. We're both introverted, or we're both shy, or whatever. We're both this way. We're both that way. And so I don't know if you could kind of speak to that. And working,
I definitely think Doug and I are 100% introverted. Like, honestly, I'm shocked we're here. Like, Katie reached out, and I was like, I was going to reach out.
Thing. Haley was like, do I respond to this? And I was like, yes.
No, I didn't say that.
No,
I said, do I ask for a podcast?
What do I say?
It was more so like, do we make that happen? Because it is actually like contrary to popular belief or what people might see of us. It's very unlike us.
Yes.
Like I grew up very painfully shy, and so Doug just wants to honestly do his hobbies. He's a hobbyist. But I think I'm sorry, what was the question? I blanked.
Oh no, just seeing different skill sets.
Skill sets.
Yeah, because I think that it's easy
Okay, so I wouldn't say skill set. I would say more character trait. Because everyone that we work
with
can
be acquired.
Totally, yes. The character trait that is the most number one thing is obvious, but it's like relentlessness and grit.
Yes.
Okay, so you have to have, and an immense amount of grit to weather through the storm of growing a big or even sizable audience on social media, which is required because you need leads to get sales for anything, even if you're an influencer or even if you're selling your own products, The thing about the social media growth is the hardest thing. It's not like creating your products, as you know. You have to be consistently relentless to the pursuit of that. And the people that find excuses and have the victim mentality of this is not the right time of my life, and maybe sometimes it's not, or if my husband was only more supportive, or if only I had more time, or maybe at this time, like those people don't succeed because they don't have the grit. It's like a character trait. It's like, I will do this no matter what. Failure is just the path towards success. That kind of mentality.
And so at that point it becomes like complementary character traits in that sense. And so it's like Haley is absolutely relentless, absolutely vicious, is going to make sure things get done, and is like, just to be blunt, like an absolute savage for some things. And sometimes I need to reel her back, or like make sure that things are looked at from a different light or from a different perspective. And so it's really like, you don't need to come into it with like certain skills. You don't need to have things that
you don't
like
need to be charismatic
or
charismatic. I was never charismatic. I can't even say the word. See, like on camera, years ago, you just have to do it over and over and over, and you just blindly do it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting you were talking about like that relentless or being a savage, and just like not basically being willing to fail.
There's no option.
And you coming along and maybe even kind of, because with that, there can also be burnout and exhaustion. And you coming along and being like, well, we also need to pace ourselves, because something else that I feel like, and you guys could speak to this more than I could, but a common trait, you talk about relentless, but also longevity and the ability to be able to do something for a sustained period of time, for not just a week, not just a month, but like, no, you got to build this over years, and you've got to be able to do that. And pacing yourself, I feel like is a part of that. And it is cool that you were able to do that. Like, I feel like Katie and I do that a lot too, where she just has a ton of like upstart drive,
Yes.
but she will kill herself
Yeah.
through that, and just be bleeding out the eyeballs.
That's me. Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you know what? We also want to be able to see our kids graduate high school,
Totally.
and we're going to have to change some things
I
here.
think also because of my tendency to do that, like Katie, I guess, we've tried a lot of things, which is a blessing and a curse. Okay. So we've poured a lot of money into mentors, learning like what's best, like, the cliche, like the grass is always greener. So like last year we poured a lot of money into ads because we were like, ads must be better than organic. We have to figure this out. Like, are ads better than organic? Turns out we don't believe that they are now, but we spent however much money every single month learning that hard fact.
College tuition's worth of money.
More,
Yeah.
And so also like a mentor will have, we spent over 6 figures, which is way more than we ever paid for our college tuition in mentors, learning different types of ways about doing online business. So like Facebook ads or different types of funnels or high ticket sales, low ticket sales, bump sales, like learning all these things to find, because I am that type of person. It's like, I want to know the best way. And if I don't learn if I don't know what's available for me to do, then I'll never know the best thing. And so it's a blessing and a curse.
But what ends up happening is like, oh, look, here's another book that Hayley ordered. Or it's just like, there's a lot of stuff that keeps coming. And I have to, at some point, also jump in. And she knows this too. Like, she sees it coming. Yeah. But it's like, at some point, you need to implement. Yeah. Versus all of the learning that happens, because it can't 100% be overwhelming. So
this year we haven't, well, that's not true. We did spend
we spent a fraction of what we spent last year.
And so no regrets. Like, I know that sounds like, oh, we regret. No, we do not regret. We learned so much. But yeah, this year we kind of reeled it back. And are just looking really based off of like family values. As you can tell when you are headless chicken, your family isn't always, we've learned this is a hard truth. It's not always the center of your focus because you're trying so many things. So this year we're focusing more on the family,
Yes. Yeah.
Learn that lesson.
Yeah. And I think that's really cool. And I admire that big time. Obviously, Katie and I share that.
Yeah, totally.
We resonate with that, with that emphasis. And even actually, I was going to say a couple things before I move on, but you were talking about grit and character, because I really feel like that stick-with-itness or the grit, or whatever to call it, can be a character thing.
Totally.
It can definitely be a character thing. And even as you guys are getting ready, you guys are going to be homeschooling your kiddos, and everybody that's ever homeschooled, or actually not just homeschooling, when you're parenting and your kids are getting to the school age, it's so easy to get caught up with what the actual education they're getting or the skills they're acquiring. Of course, those things, we need skills in an education and life. But being able to have this opportunity to build character in our children is such an invaluable opportunity. Because as you guys have already said, like something that you can't succeed without is this, like the skills can be acquired. Yeah. Like those things you can learn it. You can pay for a course. You can go to school. You can go to, but that character, it's really like when we're parents and we've got these young children, is the ideal time to build that character into our children. So I think that's just like, it's encouraging to me to hear that.
It's absolutely. And it is something that it has to be recognized by the parents early on. And it has to be something that is like, you have to think about what you're doing in terms of like setting them up, not just for like a specific job or a specific career, or I want them to go somewhere specific. It's how can they be successful in everything? And character traits is that common denominator.
I think this 100%. Is random, but I don't know if you know who Sarah Blakely is. She's the founder of Spanx, like the woman's shapewear. She
we
coined
totally
the
wear
name.
those all the time.
But Spanx, see, it's like Kleenex. Like, oh, I just have a Kleenex, but it's the brand. She is very entrepreneurial, obviously. She's a billionaire. But her dad was too, and so they would sit down at the dinner table every day. I love this. Like, it's amazing. We try and do it. But her dad would ask her and her siblings, well, what did you fail at today? And so that's the biggest lesson I've learned, is that failure is the path. There's only one way, and it's to fail over and over and over and over. So we try. We don't want our kids to fail. Nobody does, but it's good. And so that's not what society preaches. They're like, stay safe, get the good grades. You don't want to be bad at anything, or else it's a bad look on the family. So that's the one character trait I'm really going to try.
Yeah, I'm trying to put my kid into things that's tough.
Yes.
That's hard.
Right.
People
I want them to, we threw our 5-year-old, I threw her in a race car. Like we drove out to a race car track and put her in an actual thing called a quarter midget.
She felt exhilarated, obviously.
A racetrack. Yeah. Nobody driving it for her. It was her. Yeah. And it's like, here you go, figure it out. And like that to me is a character trait thing, like to get her into an uncomfortable position. To quickly learn how to adapt and overcome.
Yeah, we obviously don't want her to maim
herself.
I was a little uneasy there.
Yeah, but those are the kind of things that I think about. You
Yeah.
know, that create a successful person.
Yes. Yeah. Being a problem solver. And so then giving them problems that they are within a controlled environment
Totally.
able to start solving through failure.
Yeah.
And through getting it wrong. So you talked a little bit about, you know, you can learn and you can acquire all this knowledge, have a ton of opportunities, and that can become almost paralyzing. You can, because that can turn to paralysis by analysis, but then you're like implementation is a key. It's essential. It's like, you've got to take action.
Yes.
You've got to take the first step. And again, just kind of like thinking of our audience.
Yes.
I know, I mean, I can just think of the DMs that we've gotten or the messages that we've gotten where they're saying, I'm thinking about starting this or thinking about going on this next step, you know, with our business. When you guys see people inhibited to take the next step, like what do you think it is? Because and maybe I'll give it even a little bit more context, because I think I've been really encouraged with how you guys have been able to coach people and help them build really successful businesses, even though they don't have large audiences.
Yes.
They don't have, because I know I attributed successful online people to just, well, yeah, you've got hundreds of thousands or you've got millions of followers.
Yeah.
And then you're working with people that's like, I've never heard of them. Nobody's ever heard of them. They've got a small following, or maybe they didn't even start with a following. They were able to build a little bit of credibility in an area and then start a very successsul business. So maybe like, how could you speak to those people that are like, well, we need this before we can actually take action?
I think the biggest thing, again, there's a million big things, but beliefs. People are really messed up with their beliefs. It's everybody, humans, you know, so me, Doug, like everybody, you know, so if you believe something to be true, you're never going to get like the success because of your belief is hindering you. So the people that believe, just like I did when I was a YouTuber, you need a massive audience to get paid. Therefore, you're literally going to need a massive audience to get paid. So it's really hard for me, particularly, and Doug, to, you know, convince people that you don't. The best way is proof. It's like, so we have so many students that have 1,000 followers or less that literally focus on the income stream, which is obviously courses and coaching programs, because you take home 90+% of the profits. That's the biggest thing. So they choose an income stream that complements their family, because they don't need to work a lot. They don't need a huge audience. They don't need to appease the masses in order to get paid. You
Put
know,
their family on camera.
No.
Try to do wild, extraneous things just for views, stuff like that. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
so because they choose to break the belief that everybody has that you don't need a huge following, they can have that success. But you have to break the belief. If you don't, you're just going to find such a resistance to it.
Yes.
So yeah, it's honestly, it comes down to selling your own stuff. It's just like, if anybody opened up a mom and pop shop, you're going to make more, you know, selling your own stuff, because you don't have to, you know, I don't know, that's a bad example, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you just, it's when you're doing influencing as a career and you have that belief, you're going to need a huge audience, because you get paid pennies from what the brand pays you.
Yes.
You know, so.
Yeah. So you think that, like, right there, just being able to have your own product,
That's
own.
it.
Yes.
That's a
And
huge
obviously
thing.
we love digital products. So we used to teach YouTubepreneur, which is our first program. And this is another big risk we took in our life. I was coaching a lot of people at the time. I was just the one coaching hundreds, I think over 1,000 people. And the people, and I wasn't even teaching people how to do courses, but the people that really want to make a lot of money, I was like, you should do a course. Cause like, obviously I'm making money through this. Like, you can do the sponsor thing, but like, you could make a lot more. And so those people took with my advice and ran with it, and they made way more money. So that's why we stopped that business really and went with this next one. And it's just, you know, because you take home such a big portion of the profits. So
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And also, I mean, like, you need an iPhone or you need a smartphone to get started.
And you can work during your kids' naps, which is what we do. So.
Yes. And as, I mean, the whole, you know, information-based businesses or knowledge-based businesses, as that I guess whole economy grows, the consumer base is just growing out. It's so everybody I talk to is like, well, nobody would want to hear me talk about how to whatever, you know, how to give my son's haircuts, like, in teaching. It's like, well, no, actually people are making, you know, millions of dollars
they absolutely
selling haircuts,
I mean,
you know, and it's like, well, who am I? I'm not famous. And it's like, well, no, but you do have a skill set, or you've got a knowledge around a skill set that maybe you don't feel like it's unique, but the way that you present it is unique. And the way that you're going to communicate it to people is unique, and it will resonate with those people.
Yeah, and you don't need to reach the masses. You just need to reach a core central group of people, and you have a full-time income.
Yes.
Like, it's ridiculous. But again, the belief, no one will do it because they just don't believe it. You know, because they see Gucci bags and flashy things on the internet, and that's all they see.
Yeah, in order to really get over the beliefs that I've seen a lot of people do too, you know, part of my role is to convince people they can do it. Yep. And it's not convincing them. It's more just like enlightening them, showing them, kind of like pulling back the curtains of what they think is happening versus like what is actually possible, what can actually be done. And so a lot of that comes down to, like Hayley said, proof. So results of other people that are doing something similar to what they want
and
to do.
I was shocked too the first time. Sorry to interject, but
No.
I was absolutely flabbergasted. Like when I was coaching YouTubers, I was like, this girl made like, $10,000, $20,000. She has 500 people following her. Like, what's happening? So we kept digging into it, and we realized certain things. And anyways, it was crazy to me too. But
Yes. Yeah.
So,
That's really cool. So just because of the sake of time here, I want to ask some questions, unless you guys have anything else you want to continue on. Looking back now, I mean, since you guys have been entrepreneurs now and successful for a few years, like if you could go back and tell yourself something when you maybe even go back to like high school, college, whatever, go back and be like, boy, if I would have read this book or if I would have been told this, can you think of things like that when you're like, boy, 5 years ago, if I would have known this, or 10 years ago, like how do you speak to that person, to the younger Doug, the younger Hayley?
We have different things for sure.
Yeah. If I had to try to make it quick, like let's say I had like 15 seconds, I would tell myself at a young age to take risks and fail more because it was ingrained in me from a very young age to not fail.
Yeah.
Get good grades, study all the time. That typical, like my dad's Japanese, my grandmother's from Kobe. Okay, I'm not just saying it's Asian to be like that. I am Asian. Or, I was raised in an Asian household. Yeah. It was get good grades and get a good job. Or perish. Like pick one. Like pick your life.
Disowned.
Yes. And so I would go back and tell myself that it's okay to fail. Because I feel like that would set me up on a trajectory to try things that I may not have been good at or think that I was good at. Because people are only willing to do things that they think they'll be successful at. And it's a thing that they have to try to overcome because in this industry, you don't know if you're going to be successful at it or not until you go out and try it. So you have to have that power in yourself to actually try it and go out and do it.
Yeah, I love hearing that you like what you'd say to your younger self, because I think that's what I need to hear now. It's crazy how when I think of it's always be like, well, 10 years ago, it wouldn't have mattered if I failed because I'd be way more successful now. But right now, it's like, no, I need to be willing to fail and to take risks right now. And then 10 years from now and 20 years from now, like I want to, that's how you've got to live life, a life of growth and a life of, I think being a leader in your home is never getting to the point where you're not willing to take risks.
Totally.
Like it's just, it's got to be
It's scary with kids, but how else are you going to grow? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. What about you, Hayley?
I think for mine, it would be super simple. It's like model the people who have the lives you want financially, with their health, with their family, with their marriage, with their kids. Because my whole entire upbringing, I was modeling people and I did not want their outcome. I just saw externally like, they have a lot of money. Well, what did they do to get there? Or I wouldn't even do that. I honestly wasn't even modeling people that had a lot of money. I was modeling people with 8 to 5 jobs. So I just I didn't really fully think like, well, is this the life that I want? And so I guess on a second notion there, I would read way more books. Okay. You're not going to get any information in college. We both have business degrees, garbage, like straight up.
Yeah, it's rough.
One of the best business colleges. So we met each other, but you got to read from really successful people, not professors, unless you're a professor, which is so rare. Like they're not going to be teaching if they're any good. So reading books.
I don't think I use accounting very often or like statistics or things like that.
The marketing, yeah.
But even in college, if I would have known it was okay to fail more, I would have done crazy things to try to learn and expand my horizons. But
Yeah, that's so good. And you, like when you were talking about finding somebody to model after, I feel like that to this day is so crucial for me.
Totally.
And a lot of times I feel like I need to even like build an avatar sometimes for myself, because it's like somebody might have the family life that I so admire, but then somebody else might have the business life that I admire, or the health life. And I'm extremely blessed to be like my father, somebody I look up to, and I'm blessed. My father-in-law is somebody else that I really admire in a ton of areas of life. But I can't say that like, oh, there's that one person apart from Jesus Christ.
Yes.
It's like I can look to them in all those ways. And maybe if you don't know them in person, you're talking about reading. I mean, I feel like the most, we didn't meet you guys in person until today.
I know.
And you guys were mentors and are mentors to us in regards to business and life. And you can do that through books, through the internet. And I really feel like it's so, if you don't have the vision, you've got to like find somebody that does have the vision, or that's living that vision. The Bible talks about without vision, the people perish. And if you can't visualize something at least close to what you like, it's really hard to be than you are that person that's, like when you don't know what you're aiming at, you're hitting it every 100% of the time or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
And so that's where you end up with that life that you don't really know why you ended up with. With it. That's great. You guys, you got, first off, as I talked about in the introduction, there's so many places people can find you for just so much free helpful content. You guys are constantly putting out free content. The podcast, YouTube, Instagram. Is there another place that like is a great
our email, same thing as you guys.
Email is there too.
But it's just at Digital Income Family everywhere.
Yeah, that's great. And even though you guys, it's helpful in business in general. Like it's just all things business. You guys coach like very niche down with these people that have like micro audiences, which I think is really awesome. But you know, so much of the tidbits you guys have is just business knowledge, especially on the podcast and on your platform. So I'm excited. People go there. Go listen to Doug and Hayley on those platforms. And then for your guys' programs, what best place to find those?
I mean, I would still say the same place. You reach out to us on Digital Income Family. We always have some type of freebie or something that we're giving out because, you know, people need that push to be able to get out there.
They don't know what the heck they're supposed to do.
Yeah, they don't know what they're supposed to be doing. They don't know, like you were saying earlier, a lot of people may not know what that first step is. We have a lot of options for different types of first steps.
That's great.
Our website, digitalincomefamily.com. And I think that's pretty much it.
That's awesome. You guys, seriously, thank you so much.
Thank
so
you
much
for having us. Like, I'm stoked to be here. Like,
we had a great time.
Super exciting.
So
cool. Fun.
Awesome, guys. Cool. Well, till next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Yeah.